Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. It doesn't feel like it's been that long since I last recorded, but I had a few things that I wanted to get on video or get recorded before I forgot or before I had too many things to show. So even though I am still editing a couple of the videos that I recorded on the 2nd of January, I'm still continuing forward and making 3 more videos, so there's going to be a bit of a backlog for me to put up. Who knows when these will go up. Today is January the 17th. So, this particular video, like, it's the first of 3, which usually tends to be the case for me. And this one is my Historathon focused one. The non-crafting Historathon focused one. So the first thing I want to cover is, the first thing I want to cover is the 2 books that I decided to put aside at the moment. I started these books and... Sorry, hang on, let me turn off this alarm. There we go. I started these books and I either was just not feeling them at the moment or whatever reason. At that time I decided I'll save these for later. These are probably still good books, but... So the first one of these, I kind of felt like this was repetitive. Now I've heard other people really have enjoyed this. This is Barry Strauss's The Spartacus War. Now, it could well be, when I was reading this, I was having a really bad day for fatigue. We just started having snow this week, and I think when I was reading, I was maybe starting to feel the weather coming in, so that could have influenced, I feel like I have hair like, sorry, that could have influenced the way that I was feeling about this book. It might have seemed more repetitive than it actually was if I kept falling asleep. So my impression of how repetitive it is may not in fact be the author's fault. So I'm going to give this book a break, maybe come back to it later, maybe not this year, probably not this year. But I do intend to read it or give it another chance again at some point when it doesn't have to contend with fatigue making its job harder for it. Because I did purchase this book and I want to at least give it a fair shake before I give up on it completely. Because it's not a terribly long book. It's, if you don't count the footnotes, it is... Sorry, that's still note on the sources. Okay. It's 212 pages. The text is in decent size. It shouldn't be a book that would take me terribly long to read. So I'm thinking that it just isn't something for this year. I'll try it again later. The next one this one, I think it's mostly the size of the text right now. The text is very small, and I might even return to it sometime this year because it is something that can last all year. This is Doctors, The Biography of Medicine by Sherwin B. Newland. This is right up my alley. I do like biographies, or I do like the explanation of history through biography, and I think that's particularly a good way to go through the innovations in medicine. I read, I want to say it was 2 years ago maybe, that I read a book called The Heart Healers. I believe that's what it was called. Excellent book, and it covered all the innovations made in cardiac medicine by going through all the different mavericks who took the steps that no one else dared to bring us to where we are today in medicine. I believe it is called The Heart Healers, if that's something you're interested in. I liked it so much because I started as a library book. I think I ran out of time on it, and I liked it so much I picked it up in myself as a physical book. But that was a way of telling history through biography, and I think it's particularly a good way for medicine. I just finished a book on Joseph Leister, who had a great influence on the development of antiseptic surgery. He had influence where it came to preventative care, but he's mostly known for his the leaps and bounds that he made in his practice and in his research toward antisepsis. And he was in the Victorian ages. A lot more lives got saved because of his innovations, and Listerine is named after him. But that's another book that I really enjoyed that told some history of medicine through biography. So this is something that really should be up my alley, but I think that it's mostly the size of the text, and I probably will revisit this again at some point when I think I was tired that day. This is one that, I mean, I can revisit any point during the year because this is supposed to last all year. Let's see, I was in the section for Hippocrates. So I have 50 pages before I would have to stop until, let's see, when is this next section start? So this would be the 1500s. So this would be, looks like this one, next part wouldn't be till the Renaissance. So I would have through March to read this section here, and then I wouldn't pick up this book again until third quarter. Now this book, we have, more and more that has to be read as the year progresses, just because more innovations will occur the closer we get to current day. But this book, I believe, was put out, I want to say it was like 1987, so there shouldn't be any innovations. Well, there wouldn't be any innovations past that point. Okay, copyright 1988, so I was close. So I might pick this up again, but right now this is in my maybe not continue this year pile. Now back to the rest of what I have to show. I did finish one book. I wasn't sure I'd be able to finish one this month. My fatigue's been really bad, so it's been very hard to get the reading in that I'd like. I feel like I haven't quite recovered from the holidays, and then weather started coming in, so I don't know. But I did manage to finish this. This shouldn't have taken me as long as it did, because this is only taking out the timeline and the further reading section. This is only 215 pages. So this is Defying Rome by Guy de la Beauvoir. I believe that's how it's pronounced. And the Rebels of Roman Britain. I enjoyed this. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. I think the hardest thing is always when you have something that's going to be going through, it's covering a decent period of time, so just keeping track of who's being spoken of is usually the biggest issue. So I had to flip back a couple times, but Guy de la Beauvoir has a very easy to read style, so it wasn't, a hardship. And he provides pictures throughout the different treasures. What I found was interesting is the revolts that Boudica led, if Boudica actually existed, because there are, some questions one way or another if she was actually she was actually a story created by historians to kind of create to make a statement about Nero, who was the Roman emperor at the time, to make a statement of how even the women in Britain were more masculine than the effeminate Nero. Now, that's only one theory. I think most people do believe that Boudica existed. The problem is there doesn't seem to be any, other than the Roman sources, there doesn't seem to be any evidence within Britain of her existence. Like anything that belonged to her or had her name on it or anything like that. Now, I do believe they said that there is possibly a coin or something of that sort that has the name of the person who might have been her husband if she was alive, if she was someone who lived. So if that's the case, that, you know, that could be potentially point in direction of her existence as well, if she wasn't just created and that guy used it as a prop in their story. But there does appear to have been, at least been, a revolt during that time period, even if Tacitus and I can't remember who the other one was. Tacitus is usually the one I think of who reports on it, but there was someone else as well. Even though they put words in Boudica's mouth and in the Roman general that they faced off against, they put words in both of their mouths, but the facts themselves, the bare facts, could have been true. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting. I enjoyed the going into some of the later parts where you start seeing how Britain takes more of a forward, kind of brings itself forward more as the empire starts falling apart, which that was interesting. I mean, I kind of already knew that because I believe that Constantine I got quite a few of his troops, or his father got quite a few of their troops from Britain. But yeah, this is an enjoyable book. Probably the biggest bulk of the stuff that I usually think about for ancient Rome, for Roman Britain, is at the beginning with Boudica. You have Cardamendua, I believe is her name. Yeah. Yeah, it's just an interesting book. They talk about Christianity coming over with St. Alban. So yeah. Some of this stuff, I think St. Alban I had first heard about when I was starting to read Bede, because that would have been where Bede would have started off, because that's when his history is of the ecclesiastical history of Britain, so he wouldn't have started until St. Alban, pretty much as I recall. But yeah, if you want kind of a brief overview of Roman Britain, very much focused on the people and then the events through them, I would recommend this. This would not be probably the most in-depth overview of Britain. He has two other books I believe go more in-depth, but that's not what the focus of this book was. But yeah, I think I started to mention, but I distracted myself. One of the cool things that I found was that Boudica, that I actually lived near where Boudica apparently would have had her battles. Thetford is around that area, and they actually found, I think they said it was in the 1980s, maybe 1970s, a treasure hoard there that ended up being very influential in helping us learn more about Roman Britain. So I thought that was kind of cool I didn't even know that that was there. I remember seeing the ruins when we were in Thetford, but I believe those might have actually been medieval ruins when I went and looked up stuff, because I couldn't remember. I was young. I'm sorry, this hair is driving me insane there. I was a young child when we lived in England, so I didn't really care what the big ruins were. I was old enough to recognize that they were there, but I didn't really care that much. But yeah, I kind of wish I had been a bit older. Maybe I would have been excited to see the treasure hoard. Apparently you can see at least a replica in a museum at Thetford, so that's kind of cool. I don't think they have any pictures of the hoard in Thetford, from Thetford here. This was a good book. Very nice, quick overview. Yeah. Then, the next, I wanted to talk about my current reads. First, before I get to the physical ones here, I'm reading, first of all, I'm listening to a book. I am listening to Rubicon by Tom Holland, not the actor. I actually had a couple of Audible credits that I didn't realize I had, so I used those to pick up Rubicon, and then one after that, which is Dynasty, both by Tom Holland. Which is good because Rubicon wasn't available at all through my library as an audiobook through Libby. And then Dynasty was, but it had a wait list. So it allowed me to go ahead and get started on Rubicon because I wanted to have something to listen to when I was doing book journaling, maybe while I was trying to get some knitting done. And I'm about 75-80% through Rubicon now, and I'm enjoying it so far. Sometimes I had to go back and listen again. This is an interesting time period in Roman history anyway. There's a lot going on, and at this point I've finally gotten to the names that are late Old Republic leading into early Empire. So these are the names that are easy to recognize: the Ciceros, the Julius Caesar, Catilinus, Pompey, everyone like that. So these are just a lot of the names that, and I have a bunch of other names crowded in the back of my brain, but those are the ones that are going to come to my Cato. So yeah, I'm at the point where the let's see if I can try this word again. Triumvirate. There we go. Don't ask me to do that again correctly. But they have kind of worked out their differences again. Right now, the third member of the Triumvirate, he just got himself killed by getting too greedy and just not using his normal wiles that he used to get as wealthy as he did. He went after wealth too strong in going after it as consul. He went and got himself a province that put him in a position where he could go to war. Sorry, I thought someone was awake. In a very rich area, and he planned to get a lot of loot. Well, instead he got his death, and now we just have Caesar and Pompey. So we are very close to the period of time where Caesar will take over by himself. So I am enjoying that. The reader is good. And yeah, I only have to go back sometimes because I might have fallen asleep. But this is a very exciting period of time. It almost feels like just listening to a story at this point. Excuse me. And this is my second time this is my first time listening to something from Tom Holland. So it's a good experience so far. Now the other book that I'm just bringing up on Kindle because I don't know that I talked about it last time. I probably did, but because I'm not sure, let me see. This is Intelligence Activities in Ancient Rome. Trust in the Gods, but Verify. And this is by Rosemary Sheldon. And she is... Let me put this back on night mode and go back to where I was. She has taught at military academies. I believe that her specialty is history of intelligence, if I remember from the introduction. I am about 22% through. It's a fairly long book. Let me go back to where I was. Yeah, I'm on page 76, and it says that it's a 317-page book. Now, I don't know if that includes the footnotes or not, but yeah, it says I'm about 22% in. And this is a good book. I mean, it's definitely scholarly, but not so scholarly that it feels like it drags. It's just definitely not one of those ones. It's not one that you can tell is written for a wider audience that might not have an interest in history. I'm going to give someone, or might not have as much of an interest in his history. It's not like maybe an Alison Weir who is very digestible to someone who's just getting started in reading history. I can think of a couple other people, but I can't bring their names to mind. They might have more of a storytelling style to their writing, and maybe even fewer footnotes, or if they are there, it's not obtrusive. So, unobtrusive. So yeah, this is not that kind of book. This is definitely more for the person who's been reading history for a while and prefers a slightly less popular style of writing. So yeah, I'm enjoying this. I do tend to enjoy the more scholarly style history books. It's just, in general, my preference. I don't tend to like if there's too much. I don't like it if there's... Actually, I don't like if there's slang at all. I don't... If they have too much of a... I don't want there to be slang. I don't want there to be dialogue that there wouldn't have been known. Like, that there would be no way for us to know, is what I meant to say. Like, if we don't have it, like, in Cicero's letters or something, I don't want the author to be making up dialogue. I don't want to be having the author's personal opinions kind of pushed upon me. I want to feel like the author is just telling me the facts. They might try to give some context. I would like context, of course. And I don't mind a little bit of light theorizing even. I just don't want to feel like they're pushing an agenda on me. And some authors do feel like they have their thesis in their mind, their political thesis or whatever thesis in their mind, and they want to tie antiquity to current day, or they want to impose the way that we look at things now in society on antiquity, which isn't fair because they're two completely different time periods with completely different ways of viewing the world. So I don't tend to care for those kind of books. I tend to see that more in some of the more popular historians that are not necessarily quite as scholarly. I'm sure there are some of the more scholarly ones that do have their biases. But I've had more luck with them than with some of the more popular ones. That being said, there are popular ones that I enjoy just as long as they make a point of being as unbiased as possible, and they take great pains to give context. Then let me go into the physical ones. So before I had started, before I started even the ones that I put aside, so before I started the Spartacus War, Doctor's Biography of Medicine, or Intelligence Activities in Ancient Rome, or Rubicon, I had started Cicero. And this is an Anthony Everett book. I actually had started it via Kindle, via Libby, but I was talking about it in the Historathon Discord group, and if you are interested in the Historathon Discord, you will see in the description box of this video a bunch of tags for the people who are in charge of the Historathon. If you go to any of their videos, they should be able to point you towards the Discord. And it's a great place. There's a lot of conversation about the different history books, about different ideas, and also people are getting terribly tempted by books. But the other thing that's happening is that people will start doing buddy reads. And I ended up pausing my reading on this and picking up the physical book because I knew I was going to run out of time on my Libby book. I'm going to do this as a buddy read, finish this as a buddy read with John David, his channel, and he is one of the people who is one of the co-hosts of this Historathon 2024. His channel is Nicholas of Autrecourt. I believe I'm saying that right. It's down in the description. But we're doing a buddy read for this in March, because currently he's doing SPQR and he's doing another one as well. And Tanya from the Historathon Discord is also doing it with us. So it'll be fun. I've actually not done a buddy read. I was supposed to look into doing Radium Girls last quarter, but that kind of just ended up falling through. I should have probably kept up with keeping in contact with, I believe it was with Passage of Time. Sorry about dropping the ball on that. But I do intend on doing Cicero in March. Sorry, what did I buzz about? Okay. I've really enjoyed this so far. I enjoy the writing style. But I particularly, the writing style kind of takes a second seat anyway to Cicero himself. Cicero I find to be very interesting. He feels very real. I feel like we get to know him in a way that we don't necessarily get to know a lot of people in antiquity, because so many of his writings survived. He was a great letter writer. He seemed to be constantly writing letters. We also have his murder trials. I actually have a copy of his writings for his murder trials. It's the defenses that he would have written, whether or not he actually ended up presenting them, or if he edited them after he did the presentation. Excuse me. And I know that someone else I was talking to on Discord, I believe the name is A Polite Metalhead, but we were talking about Cicero, and the other writings of Cicero came up, and I can't remember all the ones that were mentioned. But the only ones I have are the murder trials. Those are the ones I have that Cicero wrote himself, and then I have Anthony Everett's Cicero. And I look forward to getting farther. I think when I had started this last year, I started it, I think, maybe in March last year. And I got about halfway through, maybe more, before I ran out of time. I was reading a bunch of other books I was trying to finish. This year I will finish Cicero, even if John is not able to start like he hoped to. I mean, I obviously hope that he'll be able to, but if not, Tanya and I will at least read this. And the other one that I'm reading, let me get another drink. This is a mix of, I got tea on my glasses. Sorry, guys. This is a mixture of book haul and current read. So that means I'll actually talk about it after some of my TBR, actually. So I do have, for when I finish Rubicon, a few audiobooks planned because I'm so close to finishing Rubicon. I'm not sure if I want to do The Rise and Fall of Ancient Egypt by Toby Wilkinson. I know Toby Wilkinson is connected with, I believe it's Time Team. I've seen a couple of the things with him in it. I don't know how his writing style is. I got it from Audible with credits a while back, and I haven't read or listened to any of his work that have not been like Time Team. I think I've maybe watched a couple of documentaries he's done. Then I could also go on and do Dynasty, the second of the book that follows Rubicon by Tom Holland, because I have that as well in Audible. I also have Philip and Alexander by Adrian Goldsworthy. Someone else read that this quarter, or is reading that this quarter. I got the impression it's good, but I really have enjoyed Adrian Goldsworthy's work that I've listened to or read. I listened to Antony and Cleopatra last year, and I want to say I listened to something that he did on Hadrian's Wall. Oh, I feel like I did something else that he did as well. I went through a period where I was doing a couple of his books in a row because I was really enjoying his style. And I really enjoyed the fact that he made a point of saying, if I don't know something, I'm not going to claim that this is fact. You know, I'll give you all the different possibilities. I felt like I could trust that he was trying to be impartial, which for me goes a long way. So I could possibly do Philip and Alexander. I kind of I think I'm interested in that one, but I'm not sure. The other one I could possibly do, now I'd have to borrow this from Libby as an audiobook, but it's Hannibal and Scipio Africanus. I believe that's a shorter one. So those are some options for my TBR. Now I want to go on to the book haul. This is the one that I'm currently reading. I got this yesterday, I think. And I have the other two books this author has written coming in. One of them I managed to find for $5 on, I think it might have been less than $5 on eBay, which is a steal. But this one I got off of Amazon used because I can't get his books not used. They're expensive. But this was in very good shape. This is Medicine and Religion, A Historical Introduction by Gary B. Ferngren. What interested me about this is that he wanted to really examine the fact that religion and science are not mutually exclusive. Not in the way that it has sometimes been represented by scientists or by others who want to kind of make it seem that religion either always gets in the way of science or is just hampering of science or really has no place in the scientific world. And when I was studying science in school, what I would remember is there were plenty of priests who were scientists, people of religious backgrounds who were scientists. A lot of times the people who had learning early on, those were the people who were priests. I mean, the doctors, but a lot of times if you got to that point, to have learning, you were a priest, you were a monk, you were somebody of that ilk, and you would have some sort of religious background. You would have learned from monks, from nuns, to read and write. So especially at the beginning, you would have seen scientific advances from people of a religious background. I mean, even Joseph Leister, who I just talked about last quarter, no, it would have been last quarter. He was Quaker, a very devout Quaker. So his religious life was a very big part of his life. to be religious and to be scientific aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. And there's a point, something in here that I really liked. Okay, so this is talking about experienced healers knew their limitations. They treated many conditions for which there were no cures and turned more quickly than do moderns to supernatural forces for help. This is talking about in antiquity. Those who practiced the healing arts understood that in cases where they could do little, the best, in cases where they could do little, the best, and in some cases the only, hope of physical restoration came from the gods. Even today, the religious beliefs of many Westerners intersect with the culture of healing and health care in surprisingly traditional ways. These beliefs often lie under the radar of public or media perception, and, when made public, may be ridiculed as hopelessly anachronistic. Yet a belief in God often quietly motivates a physician or healthcare worker to provide compassionate care for those who are ill. As someone who was a nurse for 10 years, and then I worked as a CNA for about 4 years before that, I can say that having a faith in God, being a Catholic, was a part of how I approach nursing, not insofar as it's overt, it's just a worldview, and it's putting compassion. It's not saying that people do, that sounds horrible, but it was a part of my of the way that I practice nursing, to put compassion forward, to take a chance, take a moment and stop and make sure that sometimes the patient just needs that person to stop, look at them, and take them where they are, deal with their fears as well as their physical health. And that can be, sometimes a person will need someone to offer, particularly in moments where death is imminent. They might need the feeling of a spiritual support, even if it's not overt, even if it's not necessarily known to them to have a religious basis. It can quietly motivate a physician or healthcare worker to provide compassionate care for those who are ill. Oh, that's the other thing. I have done this occasionally, but you have to be careful. You have to walk that fine line of not pushing beliefs on people. If someone has spoken of a faith in God, I have before offered prayer before something that they're really scared about, or gotten a hold of a priest if they need it, sometimes in the dead of the night. But something I've had done for me before both the neurosurgeries I had is my neurosurgeon prays with his patients before surgery if it's something that they are interested in. And I can tell you, when you're going in for major surgery on your spine, it is very comforting to have that offered to you. And that might only seem like a few minutes, and that might be something that could be seen as hopelessly anachronistic. But that little bit of extra support can mean a whole lot when you're scared. So it can help the physician or healthcare worker provide compassionate care for those who are ill, or help the sick endure pain and suffering, or give spiritual consolation to the dying. I've seen multiple times the spiritual consolation for the dying, and I've personally experienced, as someone with chronic illness, the help that to endure pain and suffering that having a belief in God can really, it can let you go that one more minute, that one more hour, that one more day when it seems impossible. Physicians and patients alike pray for divine help and healing, especially when they have exhausted all the avenues of modern science and medical knowledge. Faith today still offers the hope of some relief to many who experience chronic and untreatable diseases. And it provides comfort that modern medicine and science do not. The belief that there is divine purpose in suffering, some meaning in all the pain one bears. Perhaps faith even holds a role in healing not altogether foreign to that of ancient world, although modern men and women might take quite a few steps along their medical journey before realizing they may have need of their faith before that journey is over. Yeah, when faith can, I don't know how people can go through some of these medical crises, these medical traumas, without faith. I know that when there was a point where we didn't know that I needed my first neurosurgery and nothing was getting better, everything was spiraling out of control. I was losing my nursing career. There seemed to be no light at the end of the tunnel. And if I hadn't had a faith in God and the feeling that that was the only thing that got me through, sometimes it literally was each step had to be a prayer, because I would not make it through the work day without that. And even with that, there were points where I felt very close to hopeless. And I don't know how people who have nothing to believe in, nothing to hang on for, nothing to bring meaning to the suffering, I don't know how you do it. And there is some sort of value, even beyond the involvement that historically has been proven between people who are religious, between whatever the religion is, whether it be that of antiquity, that of the Christian church, that of the Muslim world, Judaism, whatever the religion might be, and their contributions to science and to getting to the point where we are today scientifically. Beyond that, there is something that you can't touch, that a faith in God, a faith in something, someone that gives meaning, gives hope, that can help where science can't. Even if it doesn't do anything physically, as in you have miraculous whatever and you get healed, it's even that hope of hanging on, of being able to accept where you're at and, keep on keeping on. That definitely has its own value. And, you talk about we're having a positive attitude can help with someone's overall health even when they're unwell, versus someone who might have a negative attitude, and that they have the same physical health level before their personalities are taken into account. But if you have someone with a more negative outlook on life and someone with a more positive outlook, the person with a more positive outlook will probably do better than the one with more negative outlook, just because that does affect your body. I mean, think about when you are very upset, or either you're you've just emotionally worn yourself down. You're exhausted. You just don't feel like putting up a fight. Whereas if you're somehow able to keep hope alive, if you're able to keep your spirits up, you feel like you can fight even when your body by itself wouldn't feel like it could. So yeah, sorry, that's a long rant that no one wanted to hear, but this kind of thing is something that's very personal to me. It's something that I've experienced both as a healthcare worker, well, as a former healthcare worker. I did end up losing that career after the surgery. I got to the point where I could at least walk without feeling that I would faint, but by the time I got to the point that I lost my career, I was at least at a point of acceptance that it was time, that I couldn't risk patients' lives. But this, I think, is a very important book to just bring to mind that there doesn't have to be this line that definitively separates faith and science, because what faith is supposed to be, what a belief in God is supposed to be, is it's a search for truth, and science is supposed to be a search for truth. So at their best, they should be headed in the same direction. Does it always happen in history that you have leaders of whatever religious sect always coming in line with science? Well, no, you're dealing with people. And there are going to be people who sometimes are superstitious, even though that might not be in the best search of truth. There might be times where the scientific community might just automatically write off certain areas of faith as being definitively superstitious. There might be personalities that create a friction where there need not be a friction. But if everything's is handled in the way that it should be, it's all supposed to be in the direction of truth, looking for truth anyway. But anyway, that's my TED Talk. I don't know how much of this will stay in. But I figure if people don't want to hear, they'll turn off. But anyway, I also have coming in his other two books. One is Science and Religion, and the other one is Medicine and Healthcare in early Christianity. So that'll be interesting. I believe that this guy, his background, I want to say is, okay, so he had, he's a PhD. He has a specialization in Greek and Roman history, and he eventually ended up devoting a great deal of time to the study of Greek medicine, and he just started, throughout time as his interest increased, looking at where there were overlaps in religion and science. And yeah, so he's done a lot of research in this area. I believe he probably teaches on this. He's professor of history at the Oregon State University, and this book is put out by John Hopkins University. I think all of his books are. So I do have, this is the first one I've received. The other two are coming in. And so far it's easy to read. I've highlighted in it already, just for the introduction. And then the other two books that I got for the book haul, this video's going to be a little longer than I intended. Sorry about that. I got Anthony Everett's The Rise of Rome. So I'm not sure when I'll start this. I just finished, or am in the process of finishing Rubicon. So this is Rise of Rome, Making of the World's Greatest Empire. I feel like this is going to kind of cover a lot of what the Rubicon did. So, I mean, it does cover more with, actually this might not be, you got Hannibal here. It looks like more of it is covering prior to Late Republic than I thought. So we'll see. I kind of want to do maybe something on the Punic Wars first, but we'll see. And the other one is How Rome Fell, and this is by Adrian Goldsworthy. I kind of figured, you know, these two together is a good fit. And so that's it for this video. Like I said, this ended up being longer than I intended. We'll see how much I end up trimming. I hope it'll be a decent amount. I'm not sure how much of the section where I just kind of ramble about medicine and religion, how much of that'll stay in, but what stays in will stay in, and what doesn't, doesn't. And that was greatly profound. Okay, thank you very much for joining me today for Talia Nerds Out, and I will see you next video. God bless. Bye.